Welcome, everyone, to our December Career Conversation webinar. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad to have you here for our webinar on overcoming limiting beliefs to find work you love. Whether you're exploring a career change or seeking more fulfillment in your current role, you're in the right place. My name is Michelle Cavalcanti, and I'm your host today. I work in alumni relations and constituent engagement and build programs to help you with your professional development. As I just mentioned, also helping today is Becky Picone, who also manages our amazing travel and book clubs and the Job Talk sessions. Today's session will be led by Christine McCann, an International Coaching Federation certified executive coach and founder of Christine McCann Coaching LLC. During this session, Christine will guide us through strategies to overcome our limiting beliefs, shift our mindset, and open ourselves to new opportunities. She'll share insights on how these mindset changes can lead to lasting shifts in our careers. We're so glad that all of you are here for this program, and we hope that you'll leave with practical tools to help you in overcoming your limiting beliefs. I will be moderating the Q&A, so if you would like to send your questions to me privately in the chat, we will get to them after Christine's presentation. So I'd like to welcome Christine, and we look forward to your presentation. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. I have to say, looking at that photo that we were all looking at as we were waiting to get started here of Rush Reeves Library brought back a lot of great memories. I graduated from the U of R in 1991, which doesn't seem like such a long time ago and also seems like a lifetime. And I really love that I'm coming full circle and back here. This topic today, I think, will be interesting. I hope will be interesting to a lot of you, whether you graduated very recently, whether you feel like you're nearing the end of your career, whether you are in a space where you're getting ready to look for new jobs, or you don't want to look for a new job, but you don't love the job you're in and you'd like that to change. So I'm really excited and I'm going to get started. If it's okay, Michelle, I would love to begin sharing my slides.
Absolutely.
Is that cool?
Yes.
And can everyone see my slides?
Yeah, looks great.
Still hear me? Great. Okay. So, yes, as we said, this conversation is overcoming limiting beliefs to find work that you love. I have worked for 30 years. There we go. In corporate and nonprofit work. I live in Washington, D.C., where I moved soon after I graduated from U of R. And I had a lot of different jobs in a lot of interesting spaces. The most recent was working for the last decade until I made this move, as a chief operating officer. And my job, it was rewarding. I loved it until I didn't. I was really kind of tired of it. And then COVID happened. And I'm sharing this part of this story. This is more than I would normally share with a group, but it's so germane to this topic. I woke up one morning. We were all newly in quarantine. It was a very frightening time. And I suddenly thought to myself, oh my goodness, I'm high risk. If I die tomorrow, will this have been enough? And the answer was no. And I have to tell you, I was gobsmacked. I had done work in the HIV sphere. I had worked with cancer people. I had done environmental and climate change stuff. I worked for Greenpeace on the Fukushima crisis. To stop and say, I don't know that this will feel like it was enough, was really jaw-dropping. So I quit my job, which felt brave and I think was, and did a lot of soul searching and eventually realized I wanted to become an executive leadership coach. So I now work with high-performing individuals at all levels with a concentration in managing work life and organizational transitions. The kind of coaching that I do is called, I'm having a hard time moving my slides here. Oh, I see what I need to do. Okay, sorry about that. It's called transformational coaching. And that focuses on deep, sustained personal change that helps you really reset the lens through which you're looking at the world. It is very goal oriented. It looks forward, not back. It produces very quick results, which is one of the reasons that I like it, because I'm such a goal oriented person. I have a bias towards action, and it tends to create change that's very long lasting, not just situational change. The thing about transformational coaching is it is mindset coaching, and it's working with people in transitional stages. It is not therapy. I don't rewrite your resume. I don't analyze your LinkedIn algorithms. And I don't actually tell you what to do. We explore together through asking a lot of questions. That's how coaches work across the board, not just me. And I mention this because Becky did just post that library to the career conversations. So if you are looking for help with, say, your LinkedIn algorithms, I know Becky and Michelle do have some great resources for you. I like to think that these things can work together, both the mindset and then these actual physical tools that you can use. So a sobering statistic, every time I mention this in a bar or at a party, people seem to move slowly away from me. The average person spends approximately 90,000 hours at work over the course of their lifetime. And that can either be something that's really exciting because you do work you love and you think, wow, I am changing the world, or it can make you feel like you're about to die because you don't love your job. And that's a really long time to spend if you don't love what you do. So here's the question. You can live with purpose. You can live proactively. You can choose what you want to do with your life. I suspect there might be some people out there who are thinking in this moment, well, that's easy for you to say, but it's too late for me. I made this change in my life when I was, I think, 52 or 53 years old. It was scary. People told me, it's too late, that's crazy, what are you thinking? And I did it anyway. And guess what? It worked. Or you can live reactively, kind of just simply responding to the needs and demands of others. It's up to you. I would like to posit that living proactively helps you get the life that you want to live, which brings me to my next question. I'm inviting you to ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like, and what will give me that? What kind of work will fill my cup? And now comes time for my shoe analogy, which is one of my favorite little tools. When we think about job searching, let's say you're miserable in your job, or you just lost a job, you need a new job. We go to the job store and we start looking for shoes that fit. We just keep trying things on and we think, oh, this shoe fits me. Oh, wow, my foot fits in this shoe really well. Without asking, is this something that's going to fit my needs? If I want a life that is filled with hiking and outdoorsy activities, why am I buying gold stilettos? Or I can have the gold stilettos, but let's get some hiking boots too. Do I even like these shoes? I think flip-flops should be outlawed. I hate Uggs. Why am I even trying them on? When you think about your job search, are you taking interviews with jobs that you realize, wait, this is never going to pay me enough. Why did I even bother? Or I don't think I love this. This doesn't fit in my vision of wanting to spend more time with my kids or my partner. So asking those questions as we're going into a job search can really create a much better outcome for us. if you have a roadmap, you might just be wandering around. But if you do not actually know your destination, you waste so much gas, you waste time along the way, and you may never make it where you actually wanted to go, whatever your job was that you really should be working in. This, I believe that each of us, I'm going to edge right up to the edge of kumbaya and woo woo. I promise I will not go over. But I believe that we all do have something to contribute to the universe. Figuring out what brings you joy is part of that journey. So, what happens when you don't apply intentionality to your job search? It's this guy. And I think many of us, I'd love to see some hands raised in the chat if anyone else has experienced this. I know I have. I've interviewed for jobs. I was on the job search. I got to the final stage and I thought, oh, please, Lord, please let me get this job. Oh. And then I get it. And I'm so excited. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, let's have cocktails. This is amazing. And then time goes on. And suddenly I'm just miserable because it really was never a good fit to start with. Michelle, did anyone pop up to say that they recognize this photo as one of themselves?
Not that I see yet.
Well, perhaps I'm the only one. And if so, that makes me feel joy. This guy's not happy. And when I've been miserable in jobs, I haven't been. So let's talk about what keeps us from living intentionally. There are these messages that we tell ourselves, limiting beliefs. These limiting beliefs are things that you believe about yourself that restrict you. And they're often false accusations you make about yourself. Maybe you say, everybody else has more experience than I do, or I'm not good at math. I can't do this. They might be societal things. No one will hire me. I'm too far along in my career. There's no positions at the senior level, or I'm too old, or. There's a litany of them, and no pressure. But if people have some thoughts about some examples of false and limiting beliefs, I'd love to hear them. Very often, these are formed early in life, and they're based on either our childhood experiences or past failures. So some of the examples that I just mentioned, I'm too old. It's too late for change. I don't think I'm qualified. No one is hiring. The market is saturated. These get in our brain and we stop. We don't move forward because we believe this. And yet it isn't necessarily true. Michelle, did anyone put any limiting beliefs in the chat? It's cool if not.
Nope, I've invited people to share, but they haven't yet. I think they're still listening to you and getting used to this idea.
All good. No one is forced to participate here.
We did get sometimes they think they're too old and with a sigh involved. So I do think that people feel that. Sounds a lot like imposter syndrome, somebody else says. I thought
Yeah.
before a new job might not be better than my current job was another one.
Absolutely. That idea of imposter syndrome, for people who don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's when you're in a room. My favorite example of my own was I was on a board of trustees. I was invited to be on this board, and I was in the room. I got there. I was looking at everyone else's CVs and bios, and I thought, oh, wow, I'm in the room with all these amazing people. I don't belong here. I don't think I should even be here. I don't want to let anyone know. Totally not true. The people who asked me to be on the board were really good at discerning who would be a good trustee. But it's these beliefs that we carry with ourselves and they get in our way. So, what links unintentional living, meaning not picking the path that you want and going for it, and limiting beliefs. One of the things, there's a number of links, but one of the things I want to talk about today is black and white thinking. So, an example of black and white thinking that some of you may be able to relate to here is either I can work in a high paying, soul sucking job and then die a husk of a human, or I can joyfully play my tambourine on a corner and be homeless. We go for the extremes and we forget that there are many, many options available to us in the in between if we just looked for them. Catching up on my notes here. Sorry. So before anyone starts to hit themselves over the head and says, oh my gosh, I also do that, I have this black and white limiting beliefs, we kind of tend to hit ourselves over the head about this. But in fact, this is something that we do because we are human. So now's our moment for fun with evolutionary science. Black and white thinking is something that we have evolved to have, and it started out being a really good thing. Back when we lived in caves and our nearest neighbor was a saber-toothed tiger. I've named this guy Tony. You can see he's in need of some dental work. If our saber-toothed tiger neighbor came up to the cave, we basically had three choices, right? You can hide, you can run, or you can fight. And this is the fight, flight, freeze that so many of us hear about. These are things that happen when we're in a complete panic, right? We go to these choices to save ourselves, fight, flight, freeze. And when we were living next to a saber-toothed tiger, that was really smart thing. We didn't take time to hesitate and think, gee, let me make some nuanced decisions here. Perhaps I'll create a spreadsheet. Maybe I'll make a flow chart to help me decide. You had to make a decision right then. Is this friend or foe? Is this situation good or bad? Am I safe or am I in danger? And so it was a great thing at the time. And also in 2024, we no longer, most of us, live next to saber-toothed tigers. So I'm going to invite you to ask yourself through this process, when you feel these limiting belief thoughts come up, is this thought still serving me? And I have a great example of this. One of my clients, her name is Sally, which is actually not her real name, works for a big government agency here in DC. And I started working with her a couple of years ago. And she was in a job she really didn't love. She didn't love her supervisor. She was really struggling. And very early in the process, she came in one day and said, well, I have news. My old boss reached out to me. I loved working with her. And she wants to know if I want to apply for this job that she's got open. And I said, oh gosh, that's great. She said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to. And I said, why not? She said, well, I looked at the position description and it's got a lot of budgeting. It's got a lot of math. I'm not good at that. And I said, you work at Treasury. You actually are very good at those things. You've told me this is part of your work. Why do you think you are not good at math? She said, I've never been good with numbers, not since I was in second grade. And when I said, what happened in second grade? She told me she went up to the blackboard to do a math problem, and it was either her perception or the reality. She didn't know what to do. She got stuck, and the teacher shamed her in front of the class. And so she went back to her desk and she thought, I am keeping a low profile. I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. where I get humiliated. This is a really smart coping mechanism for children to protect themselves. And also, at the time we were doing this, I think she was 63 years old. And I said, Sally, is this thought still serving you? Is this even true? I want you to know, after we did some work on this very thought, this very issue, she got the job. She has now had 2 promotions. Her boss who hired her left. She took that job and she's leading her division. It's this magical story about how taking a thought that you had about yourself and asking, wait a second, is this still true? And is this serving me still? It creates magic. This is why I love being a coach. It's truly amazing. So let's talk about, for all of us who are on this call today, how do we change our own limiting beliefs? And the answer is, just like Sally did, we shift the lens through which we are looking at our options. We reframe. And before I go into a specific, I have some tools that I want to share with you, and I'm excited to share. But I want to share one more story about another client whose name is Elizabeth. That actually is her real name. She gave me permission to use it. And Elizabeth works, she's a current client. She works at an organization that she loves. They do great work on an international scale. She's always been so proud to work there. And also, her division that she works in is really dysfunctional. The structure is pretty dysfunctional. And because of that, she has a couple of coworkers who have been allowed, even encouraged, to work in ways that have really dampened both the output of the organization, but also just the moods and the attitudes of her teammates. And so when I spoke to her, her thought was, okay, either I'm going to have to live with this dysfunction, which is just really, I'm crushed. I can barely get out of bed. I hate my job now. Or I have to leave this organization where I was so proud to work there. And I said, yes, unless you don't. What might be another option? I have to tell you, she realized she could outline all the problems. She knew she wasn't the only one experiencing them. Other people had been talking about it. In the course of 1 week, we hung up the phone. The next time we got on our session, she said, well, I thought about what we said. I made a plan. I went to our senior vice president who agreed that there are problems. I said, I'd like to lead this change. And I've already asked, and I've got some other people. She's now leading a task force to address these problems that were affecting her entire organization. So she's bringing a lot of good to the world, but she's also bounding out of bed every day, including Monday morning. She made that shift in 1 week. She found that spot for herself in this task force in 1 week. I'm not saying the task force hasn't had some challenges. It has. But this is the work she loves, and this is the work she wants to do. So let's figure out how we can do that as well. So there's a philosopher named Byron Katie, who is a woman. And Byron Katie invites us to ask, when we're looking at a belief about ourselves or a situation, is this actually true? Do I think it's true, or is it really true? And what comes up for me? What kind of emotions come up for me when I think about it? What might be different if I didn't have this belief or this thought? What I'm about to share here is a really big, it's just a super tool. And I hope that I hope it's as useful to you all as it is to me. I use it regularly with my clients, but I use it almost constantly in my own personal life. It's tremendously helpful. So here's the thing. We have a thought about something, and then the thought elicits emotion, and that emotion affects our actions. It seems like it shouldn't, it does. So let me give you an example. Maybe we're having the thought, oh my gosh, I will never get this done. Actually, let me back up. You're just working along at your desk, you're happy, and your boss comes along and drops some enormous stack of papers and says, hey, sorry, we got to get all this done. It's got to be done by 6. I know you can do it. Best of luck to you. And your boss prances off and you're in a panic. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I'll never get this done. That's the thought. So, what emotion comes up for you? Despair. Maybe you go down a rabbit hole. I'm going to have to quit my job. What if I get fired? I'm not going to be able to go out on my date tonight. All kinds of things are flying around. What's the action? One of the actions might be you freeze, or you give up, or you just feel defeated. You're sitting there in defeat. And again, that's that fight, flight, or freeze response that we have when we're under stress. What would happen if we had a different thought? Instead of saying, I'll never get this done, what if we went to, you know what? I've done this before, and I actually have a great team. Okay, so now what's the emotion that's coming up? A little bit of hope, maybe even a little bit of excitement. How are you going to work together with the team? I'm not saying you're not still a little panicky, but you've had a shift. You've shifted into a more positive place. Well, now that you have some hope and some excitement, the action might be, all right, let's call a meeting with the team. Let's create a plan. The thing I want to point out is the data on the table is still the same. You're still sitting in front of this enormous stack of work that your boss just brought you. And it's still due at 6 o'clock, but you're now moving forward because you were able to shift your thought. And that's why this is important, to think, to stop and ask yourself, how can I reframe this? This is a big part of how coaches work and what we do. So, give me a second. I'm just going through some notes here. Lest anyone, again, think that maybe this is some kumbaya thinking or a little woo-woo, it's actually based in science. So this first image, for anyone who doesn't know, is a graphic of a screen from the game Tetris. I'm not sure how many of you, I actually think Tetris got popular again, so maybe everybody knows. But Tetris came to me, again, our full circle thing, when I was an editor at the Campus Times at U of R in 1989. Tetris had just come out. It had been invented a few years before, but then Nintendo bought it, and suddenly it was all the rage. I cannot tell you how many times, how many hours I played this game in the CT office in what was then called Wilson Commons. And the way that you play Tetris is a bunch of tiles are coming down through from the top of the screen, and you have to use arrows to fit them into the space. It sounds very simple. It is. It sounds a little stupid. It is. It is also highly addictive. So fast forward to 2000. There's a team of researchers at the Harvard Medical School School of Psychology, and they do a 3-day experiment with some students. They ask them to play Tetris for many hours a day for 3 days in a row. Afterwards, they do some brain scans, but they also interview them and start talking to them about their experiences. There ended up being an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer right about this time with a student who participated. And what he said was, it's like Tetris got in my brain. I'm out on the street and I'm looking and I see, okay, how would those buildings, if I tipped this one building on its side, could it fit between these other two? He's in the grocery store in the Wegmans and realizing, wow, if I tipped this cereal box to the side and moved it over one little bit, it would drop in. This has become a phenomenon, a scientific phenomenon called the Tetris effect. And what it is when we start thinking a certain way, it changes our neural pathways in our brain. And we just automatically start seeing everything through that lens. It actually causes physical changes in your brain that show up on MRIs. Now, a lot of you also probably know about this experiment, which has become very popular. I think it went out on TikTok, so now a lot of people know about it. In this second experiment, some researchers took 200 people. It was a pretty big sample size. And they had them watch a video of a basketball game. And one of the teams was wearing white shirts. And over the course of a very short period of time, they asked people, we want you to count how many times people in white shirts pass the ball. So everybody's watching and counting, and some, people are competitive. They're really focusing. Unbeknownst to the participants, at some point during the video, a guy runs across the court in a gorilla suit. When they later asked the participants who saw the guy in the gorilla suit, 46% of the people never saw the guy in the gorilla suit. In fact, many of them insisted, no, there never was a gorilla. When they showed the video afterwards, they couldn't miss it. I mean, the guy was right up front center running across, but people were so focused on it that they didn't see the gorilla because they were only looking for what they were seeing. So the thing here is we start seeing what we're looking for. Another great example. Has anybody ever gone and decided, okay, it's time for a new car. I'm going to get a new car, and the car I want a red Volkswagen. Well, suddenly, once you're out on the street looking, you're seeing red Volkswagens everywhere. This is happiness science. If we start looking for possibilities, you will start seeing them. I swear to you, this is logged in science. If you are only looking for ways that you're going to fail, you're going to start seeing those. So think about all this. And we are coming up kind of close to the edge of our time. I want to wrap things up, and I want to give us some time for Q&A, because I know that a lot of people had mentioned those things. But before we go there, our key takeaways from today is creating the life that you love means living intentionally, including when you're doing your job search. And living intentionally means you need to sit back and think, what would make me happy? What do I love doing? Not just what have I been doing for the past 20 or 6 years or 40 years. What do I love doing? The things that we tell ourselves, these messages, it's too late. How can I possibly shift my entire career at age 52? Guess what? You can. Partly because so many of the skills you've developed are actually transferable. Black and white thinking, often really detrimental to our effective processing and looking at our options. So ask yourself, what options do I have? Do I have options? What are the in-betweens? What are the gray areas? They are there. And then reframing the way that we look at those options, those open an entire host of possibilities. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see my website and you'll see my email there. If anyone, we're going to go and answer, I hope, a whole bunch of questions here, but I do want to invite anyone who is interested, please stay in touch. I'd love to chat. If you would like to subscribe to my newsletter, which doesn't come out annoyingly often, I tend to send information on leadership, skills, mindset tricks, tools, much like what we've talked about today. Feel free to scan that and you can sign up. You can also, if you'd like to do a complimentary call with me, totally free, no obligation, to learn more about how coaching might help you, whether it's with me or with someone else, happy to do that as well. But I would love to stay in touch and learn more about all of you. I know that if you didn't catch the either of these QR codes, Michelle will be sending out. I've invited her to send my slides afterwards in a couple of days to anyone who wants them, and she'll also add these links there. So with that, I'm going to take myself off of screen sharing here. And I'm going to open up my screen here. There we go.
Are you ready for
And
your Q&A?
have at it.
All right. We had quite a few questions come in. We'll try to answer as many as possible. And we also had some that came in before we began. So let's start out for the first one. It says, I'm currently being considered for a job, not sure that I want to pursue it. It's a CEO position. While I'm unsure, should I still proceed with the candidacy process? I could learn from the process, but is this a waste of time? And what if I'm having a challenge with even identifying what I love to do?
Okay, so there's a lot of questions there.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that I believe my clients all already know the answer. So I got a bunch. What I heard you say in that question was you think it would be good experience to go through the process. Chances are that's true. If you have the time and you don't think you would be wasting time that would go elsewhere, that might be worthwhile. It could go either way. I'm sorry. I know you're looking for a more concrete answer. I suspect there's no harm in going through the process to learn, and also trust your gut. If you have a really strong feeling, oh my gosh, something's telling me run, don't walk. These people are a little off kilter. I'm getting a message. Gee, this doesn't feel good. I think I'd listen to my gut. Michelle, what was the last part of that question?
So the last part of the question was, what if she's having a challenge with even identifying what she loves to do? And another question had come in that was similar, just so you might want to attack both at the same time. How do you explore different interests to see what might be the best fit for a new career? So maybe you can tackle both of those.
Absolutely. So, what might be helpful is, if it's okay, if you'll be indulgent, I'm actually just going to share the process that I went through in deciding I wanted to be an executive coach. And that process was, first of all, I went through that process I mentioned earlier during COVID, where I woke up one day and thought, what if I die tomorrow? Will this have been enough? And I said to you, so I quit my job. I went through a lot of self-discovery and I realized I wanted to become a coach. Well, because this is a 1-hour workshop, I kind of skipped over some steps. One of the steps I skipped over is I kept working the job I was working and stayed longer than I should have. So by the time I left, I was really burned out. I took time to get my head in order And then I started to ask myself, I rented a little cabin. I went away for 5 days. I did a lot of writing. And one of the questions I asked myself, and this is the answer to each of you, because this is an exercise that I found profoundly helpful. I made a list of things that I did in an average day and I had done over the last several weeks. This exercise, you're supposed to sort of keep a diary, but I was doing it backwards, and that was fine. And then I looked at each item on the list, and this was stuff that I was doing in my personal life as well. I looked at each item on the list and I asked myself two questions. One, am I good at this? And then, do I love doing this? So here's a great example. I, at the time, was the chair of a large Irish American membership organization here in Washington. So part of that was going to our events and working the room and making sure everybody was set and taken care of. And I am really good at that. I am not a wallflower. I can basically talk to a potted plant and get a response. Really good social skills. And also, I then have to go home and lay in fetal position in a dark room on my couch and not even have music on because I'm so totally drained. So that's a great example of something I'm really good at. And it does not, 8 hours of that, 5 days a week, 10 hours, I'd be dead by now. I wouldn't be doing our workshop today. It's too draining for me. I can only do it once a week or so. The flip side of that, one-on-one conversations, I'm very happy. This is a lunchtime conversation. I know I'm speaking to a group of you, but I feel like it's a one-on-one conversation. And certainly my coaching sessions are one-on-one. I hang up from those. I can't do them at night because I'm so wired and energized after my one-on-one interaction. So by doing that, really ask yourself, do that self-reflection. What do I love about my job right now? What do I hate? What would I do differently? What would I love the next job to have? What am I really happy to say goodbye to as I'm saying sayonara to this group? Those questions, knowing that and knowing that about yourself, that can really help you. Michelle, do I have one more time to give one more super fast exercise that I think will help people in this arena?
Yes, we have about 15 minutes left and we still have some questions, but I think you can go ahead.
Well, this is an exercise that might help a lot of you. So, what I invite people to do, I love art and painting. I've got my little paintbrushes I keep right here on my desk for in between sessions. If you get a big piece of paper or poster board, I invite people to, on the front of that poster board in lots of different colors, write down the words. You're basically making a word cloud that is summarizing all the words, the things that you love about your job or things that you want. I love that I have flexibility in my schedule. I love that I don't have to go into the office. I love that I do have to go in the office. And you just keep writing those things down. As you do this, you're going to think of things, it's going to remind you of the things you hate. You know what? I don't love working with this supervisor who's incredibly micromanaging and doesn't trust me. So on the back sheet, I'm not going to mix up the good and bad. I'm going to flip it over. And on the back, I'm going to write micromanagement. I'm probably going to put that in big letters. I really don't like that. Once you get that down, then as you begin to look for jobs, you're going to recognize, oh, well, I'm looking at this job description, or I've just spoken to people about this opening, and I'm realizing there are a lot of things that I love and I'm looking for. It's ringing these bells. Conversely, maybe with that CEO job, I'm not sure why you're thinking you don't want it, but if suddenly things are coming up that are things that were on the backside of that sheet of paper, maybe you want to stop and think about it. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much. I think
Michelle,
that'll be helpful for people. There's a question that came in, and it is, I'm looking for an entry-level job in my field after finishing my master's degree, but the current jobs open either have requirements of high school diploma only or years of experience. How do I navigate this? Should I be meeting every single qualification on the job posting? Am I limiting myself if I don't apply, if I don't meet some of the qualifications? I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier in your presentation. Would you have a little bit more to share?
So I want to put up front that there are some specifics about that question. And first of all, congratulations on just getting your master's and out into the job world. I want to say to everybody on the call, our nation is in this enormous period of transition. You don't have to be a transitions coach to realize there's a lot of energy out there right now, and people are really in a kerfuffle. So it's a tough time. The advice that I'm giving to just about everybody I know these days, whether it's job search or anything else, including myself, is hang in there, right? Stay the course, do the things that you know to do. The question about the specificity about what you should apply to, Michelle, I'm guessing that you guys have some more information in the library that can help this person. I would say trust your gut. If it feels like a job that really excited you, yeah, I'd say apply. I will also say that right now, LinkedIn is having its moment in the sun. I have also heard from a lot of people, both clients and non, that they apply to job after job after job in LinkedIn and they don't hear anything. And that can be a little soul sucking. So, one of the questions I would ask is how how is this helping me? If I'm only applying to LinkedIn and I'm hearing nothing at all, and I'm starting to feel like something is wrong with me, what other ways could I explore? That's what I would invite you to do. I would start reaching out to people. I would tell everyone I knew what I was looking for. I would call people and say, would you be willing to have coffee with me and do an informational interview? You'd be shocked. There are very few people who say no because all of us were in that path at one point or another. I never say no to people when they ask, do you want to have coffee? Can I buy you a cup of coffee, Christine? And can you tell me about your trajectory and maybe give me a little bit of advice? So I would invite you to do that. And the reason is coming from my mindset coaching perspective, what are some other options that you can look at that maybe will get you in the door in a way that whatever the current method you're using isn't? I
That's
hope
great.
that
And
is.
oh, sorry, I was just going to say, Becky just put in a video that we did recently, which gave some tips about LinkedIn and using ChatGPT secrets, which was really helpful for a lot of people because it gave some insight from the recruiter's perspective, what they see, and also how to make your profile stand out more. There's another question that I thought is really interesting, and it says, where did it go? Let me find it. Do women and men experience having limiting beliefs in the same way? Do certain people experience more of this than other people, and are the limited beliefs different?
So the short answer is yes, because we are human and everybody experiences their limiting beliefs differently. I'm in an awkward position right now because I'm reaching for a book that I want to share as a resource. Um, I am a woman, and so I work with a lot of women who have shared certain limiting beliefs that I have. So I'm actually going to talk about that first, and then I'll talk about limiting beliefs in general, no matter what gender you are. There is a book that is very helpful for a lot of my female clients. It's by Tara Moore. It's called Playing Big: Practical Wisdom for Women Who Want to Speak Up, Create, and Lead. Becky, if you're super quick with your hands there, you might even be able to get that link from bookshop.org or Amazon. And the the premise of the book, it's super readable. It's such a fast read. My book, it's almost ridiculous. I have so many. The whole book is highlighted because I look at this book so often, and it was here on my desk because I reach for it several times a week. It's this idea that we all know people, women, but we all know people who we think, wow, they are so sharp, they're at the top of their game, and yet they don't necessarily think that about themselves. This goes back to the imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier, that Michelle mentioned, where we, for some reason, think we're not good enough. And everybody else around us is like, wow, they're great. So that book is worth looking at. But I also find, more specifically answering your question, people's limiting beliefs often come from their life experiences, how we've all been socialized. So gender does come in there, and also our childhood experiences. So my client Sally, who almost didn't take this amazing job, she's making like double the money she was making when we first started working together because she thought she wasn't good at math. And here she does budgets all the time and she works for the Department of Treasury. It was crazy. Um, the flip side, there are men who I have some male clients who came to coaching because they wanted to improve and learn more about themselves, their communication styles, the way they handle conflict. And when we began to talk and, really sort of parse that out and unravel it, they realized their communication wasn't that great because they were afraid to be honest about emotions. And when we were able to look back, coaching is not therapy, but it can be very helpful to look back and say, are there any other times you remember experiencing that often when you were young? Why did you think that? What was it solving? What did you do? And is that still the best plan now that you're 39 or however old you are?
Okay.
Michelle, do you think that's a good enough answer? Would you do?
Yep, I think
If
so.
anybody,
And Becky was able to locate the link for the book. So we put that also in the chat and we can include that in the follow-up email as well when we send out the video and the slides. We have time for one more question. And this one says, how can I approach the career search journey to maximize opportunities that set me up for continued success and even fulfillment, especially as someone from multiple marginalized identities, including LGBTQ?
that's a great question. I think no matter who you are, no matter what community you're coming from, I really do believe that going back to those early questions that we discussed and the things that I experienced in my own search and decision to become a coach, I believe if you ask yourself, what will bring me joy? That enthusiasm comes out. And if you love the work you're doing and you love the people you're working with, that's a huge thing. You're going to look forward to getting out of bed in the morning. As I'm sitting here, I'm kind of laughing because when we first started all using Zoom during, COVID, I had not in my work environment, we never really did video chats. My face is so expressive and I had no idea. I thought, oh my God, I'm like a cartoon character. I'm like a puppet. This is crazy. I'd never seen myself on the screen. But as I've been sitting here today and I'm thinking about that period of time where I quit my job, I was so burned out. I thought, what if I die? I want to make a difference in the world. How I felt and looked then versus now, even I can see my own enthusiasm. I will tell you this, if I died tomorrow, this job would have been enough. It's not what I wanted, knock on wood, but I mean, it's not what I want to die. My job is what I want. So asking yourself, really dialing in, what do I love? What will bring me joy? What are those activities, right? I'm going to switch actually this, since this is the last question. The way that I got to realizing I think I want to be a coach actually came out of a brunch. I was having brunch with a girlfriend, and I had been going through this process and really exploring deeply. I think I'd already taken my little 5-day retreat in a cabin in the mountains. And we went to brunch, and she was asking me a bunch of questions about her work situation for advice. Um, Ironically, coaches don't give advice. But as we were talking, she was in a really black and white space. She also worked for the government. She works for a museum. And she said, I've put all this into working all these years in this civil service position. I have a pension. I'm miserable. Either I leave and lose all that, or I stay and have this job that I don't love. And the conversation, before I even realized, I didn't even know that was what coaching was, but I said, yeah, unless it's not. What if you had other choices? And when I know exactly where I was on the street. It was a couple days later, I was thinking about it. She had called me and said, that question that you asked me, I think that changed my life. And I was walking home and I suddenly thought, this is what I love, this one-on-one interacting with someone. So, in answer to your question about finding passion, you ask yourself, what are the things I love doing? Where could I apply that and take it from there? And have some faith. And the other thing is, statistically speaking, for all of us, we have to just keep at it, right? It's you go out on a date, or you're playing, I don't know, some game, darts or something, and you throw a couple of darts and you miss, you're hitting the wall and you're like, I'm not good at this. Well, most really good dart players have been practicing night after night after night. There are years of dart matches that they had before they won the little dart trophy that they win in their pub, or maybe they go national. I don't know about the dart playing, but keep at it, keep trying, and just keep trying new things, right? We don't know if it works till you try it. Keep trying.
I think that's a great place to end for today, Christine. We're just at time. I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your insights today. And your guidance is truly invaluable, and we so appreciate your dedication to helping others achieve lasting success and joy. So thank you, Christine.